Good evening, everybody. Hi. Welcome back to Real Talk with Shubho. And today we have a very special guest for us, and she will enlighten us in the area of marketing, the psychology of marketing. And I'm very excited about this talk today. So we will take a short break, 3 minutes. I will be back with the guest. Stay tuned. Hello, everybody. Hi. Welcome to the Real Talk with Shubho. I'm the CEO of Success Ante, and we do this program every Wednesday, 7:30. And thank you for being with us. And today is a very, very special day, not because it's election day, because we have a wonderful guest today with us, and she's going to talk about all of it. She's all about marketing, and she heads the highest authority when it comes to marketing in Sri Lanka. So I would like to invite a good friend of mine, Onali. Onali, can we see you? Please join
Hi,
us.
Sho.
Hi.
Hi.
Hello. Hi,
Hi,
Onali. How are
Sho.
you? Good to see you.
How are you?
Good, good,
Good to see you
good.
too,
So
Sho.
thank you for joining. Thank you for joining. And as I always mention, your environment is more important than your willpower. So there are a lot of people in my life who has contributed to make my standards high, and Onali is one of them, right? And she has contributed a lot in my life. And I'm so grateful for what she has done. Thank you so much, Onali. And thank you for joining us. Thank you for joining us. She's wondering, what did I do? What did I do? She was
yeah, I am
so let me introduce the guest today. So Onali has 25 years of collective experience in the marketing and advertising field of well-known international and local companies, and especially in education industry. She was the first female medical representative appointed to Hemas Pharmaceuticals. Her advertising experience ranged from below the line and above the line advertising, which includes outdoor advertising and personal selling too. And she is qualified in English and mass communication from University of Sri Jayawardhanapura. And she has done her marketing from CIM, HR qualification from Chartered Institute of Personnel Management, and project management from Wigan and Leang College of UK. And she did a psychology degree from Fairfax University, US, and MBA from the best institution in Sri Lanka, because both of us studied there. Okay, Postgraduate Institute of Management, and currently she's sitting for her PhD. So very soon we'll have Dr. Onali. From at PIM, Postgraduate Institute of Management. And she is the first person to be appointed by Chartered Institute of Marketing UK outside of UK. And she enjoys outdoor activities, traveling, loves to play the piano, a big fan of classic cars, and she's a proud product of. She's really proud about it. At Holy Family Convent, Bambalapitiya, and enjoys simple thing is life. And if you really ask me to describe Onali, she is a giver. I mean, she is a giver, and she's a friend who you can count on. That's who Onali is in my world. So, and then of course, she heads as I was saying, the Chartered Institute of Marketing UK, Sri Lanka, and Maldives operation. So we were having this conversation about psychology and marketing, right? So then I thought about that. We had some few conversations. So I thought it's very valuable, and why don't I interview her or invite her for this interview and listen to her from her mouth, and learn about it as well. So Onali, welcome to the show, and with that, so my first question to you: is there a psychology behind marketing?
All right. Before I start, thank you, Shua, for inviting me. And I don't know whether I actually deserve all that credit that you've been giving me. So thank you anyway.
You do. You deserve it. Trust me, you do.
Right. So but I will try to put things as layman as possible. Right. So your question is there a psychology behind marketing? Yes. Very simple. Very simple thing is, as Zig Ziglar said, people don't buy for logical reasons. They buy for emotional reasons. So when we go to a shop, sometimes we have a whole list, but we end up buying a whole load. I'm sure you would have experienced when you go with your wife, when you go shopping, yes, you end up with a lot of things. Yeah. So these products are situated in a way because they have understood the buying behavior of people, so that their instincts, their psychology makes them want to buy them. So there is there is psychology. Marketing is all about understanding the psychology of all these people and pitching it right. So that is in a very simple way.
Right. So, okay, when you say there is a psychology and then we end up buying a lot of things, so how do you measure the impact of emotions that gets provoked through marketing initiative? So how do you measure that?
Right.
Other than, go and buy something and then get something else, other than that.
Right. Now, this is a very current subject that most of the people talk, but I'm not going to go into that subject. But all of us have heard about data, right? We have a lot of data in our companies. We have a lot of data. Now, if I take a very simple example, when you take Success, Zante, you know how many people eternally come to watch your program. So that's data. You know how they behave, what kind of topics they prefer, and what time they come into your show, whether they watch it afterwards. So those are basic things that people do. So that data, you can take that data and use that data for your marketing activities. So those are the ways, that is some way of measuring our emotions based on, so we have a lot of data now. For example, supermarkets, they know what kind of products are fast moving. Then they know that if they put things like lollipops at the counter, they go fast, right? So those are data that they use for these purposes to market. Then especially in the digital channels, in the current scenario where we had COVID situation and where people couldn't do a lot of things, based on a lot of our emotions, because we buy based on our emotion. There are many emotions that we use. We buy out of worry, or we are scared that things might run out, we are worried, that I wouldn't be able to buy it if I don't buy it now. So there are lots of things. And then feedback. We have feedback forms. We have, even when you go to certain restaurants, you have a smiley face that you can turn, or you can say, okay, I like it or not. So that's all based on our emotions. So it's most of the time, the reason why they have that smiley face at the count is when that person is looking at you. Emotionally, I don't feel like saying bad. So we always end up, going and clicking the green, saying that we are happy. But if you ask them to click that in a few hours' time, their emotions change. So based on that current emotion, they will give the feedback. So there are lots of ways of measuring the impact of emotions for marketing initiatives. I hope I'm clear.
Got it. Yes. So the data is what we are collecting. That is the measurable factor. That okay, based on that we are able to place it right. That whatever product has to be placed. That's why my 8-year-old always, when she comes at the counter, she will say, "Can I have a lollipop?" It happens every time I take her to take her to Kiehl's or Cargill's or one of the supermarket chain, right? So great. So in Sri Lanka, so do marketeers in Sri Lanka utilize or apply the psychological messaging in their communication? I'm talking about the message part of it. Do you think there's a lot of usage of that?
It's a yes and a no, sure. In most of the well-known companies, they do. Now, for example, we get text messages saying if you, like that or forward that, we will donate a certain amount of money for a fund, right? So that's some kind of communication. Then there are certain advertisements you would have seen where people don't promote their product, but they promote something totally different. I don't want to mention product names or brand names. I'm trying desperately to avoid. So excuse me if I accidentally end up mentioning a few. Now, for example, there was this particular biscuit brand where you say, okay, help someone else give a glass of water to the principal who walks by. Making us do things on our psychology. So the message, they're building brand loyalty using our psychological factors. So there are lots of companies who does it. But at the same time, if you look at some of the flyers that you see on Facebook, why don't we actually stop and read it? That's because it the creativity might be attractive. We stop because the creativity is attractive. But at the end of the day, do we buy it or do we do what they want us to do? So that's because certain areas doesn't, we stop, we look because it's attractive, but it doesn't sell to our emotions.
Right.
So when it doesn't sell to our emotions, we don't give a call. We would skip it. Or
Right.
if it is too complicated, if it's too crowded, you can't be bothered reading. You know, so we have to understand that, especially when it's a digital media, people like to scroll through. So there are certain things that you have to put all together so that a person will capture the essence of your advertisement within a very short period of time.
And they can remember it, and then later on they can take action on it.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Okay. So there is a question from Sandan. So Sandan is
Okay.
asking, there is a actual quality of the product, and there is a perceived quality. Is it the gap between the two known as psychology, or how do you explain the same? What's the
perceived, the quality of the actual product
actual,
and the
yeah,
perceived quality.
and the
Yes.
perceived, yeah. So is that the
Right.
psychology you're talking about?
There is, because see, we are brand loyal. Some of the things now, for example, I might buy a certain branded shoe compared to a cheaper brand, spending about 10 times more, right? Sometimes the quality might be better of the cheaper one. But it's perceived, we have it's what marketeers does. That's what they are supposed to do. They build brand loyalty. They build that perception in a person's mind so that you automatically feel that I should own it. Now, for instance, I have to mention the name. I can drive a Mercedes, right? You drive a Mercedes. Or I can drive a Maruti, but the pleasure is different. The reason is it is built into our systems. True, the Mercedes do have a higher quality and all that, and the performance, all that is better, yes. But still, even if we couldn't afford it, we would prefer to go for a known brand or a elite brand because of the perception that it's built in our minds. So, but at the same time, if the quality is poor, you go for a particular product. I think Denzil also mentioned it yesterday.
Yeah.
If the product is weak, you try it and you drop it off.
Right.
Because immediately your emotions say, okay, but they say is they're bluffing. So the moment, you know, it's good to get a person to try something out, but to keep people coming back to your product, you need to have that quality. Right. So I hope, Sandan, that I've answered your question. Product quality and perception are two different things, but perception makes us provides that initiative for us to buy. But retention is mainly on the quality of the product and especially the service. Quality and the service that we provide. Service. The product can be good, but if the service is horrible, people will definitely not go for it later.
Definitely, yes. I totally agree with that. Great. So next question from Chaminta. Chaminta is asking, can counting on emotion too much results in negative marketing results, such as in the insurance or healthcare sector for insurance? So what she's saying that, okay, how this insurance sector, you know, perceived to be in a negative way when you're talking psychologically. So how to address that?
Okay, there are certain things in psychology where there is a negative and a positive. So in some cases, we can use the positive to get the market going. In certain cases, we get the negative also going, getting the market going, right? Now, for example, anger. sometimes we use anger to make people do things. Now, for example, or even sadness, those are negatives. So now, for example, UNICEF, they talk on a child's hunger and make us donate, right? That's a negative connotation, but still we do it because it touches our emotion in a different way. But if we keep on making a person angry, at a certain point, the customer loses it. So once they lose it, then there will be no satisfaction there. So what now Chaminta is asking, especially on the insurance, right?
Yes.
We all have
insurance or healthcare. Yeah.
Yeah.
Healthcare in the insurance. Yeah.
Yes, we all have people who keep on calling, who keep on nagging, basically, and we don't know how to get rid of them, right? Insurance and medical selling, I mean, I've been in the industry and it is some of the hardest selling to do. It sells more than marketing. So what we say is, you speak, there's something called liking, right? Influencing, we can influence people like, as Professor Caldini says, you can influence a person, right? So you know the halo effect, right?
Yes.
So yes. So what we do is we like things that people like. We like things. We like to buy things with people who compliment us, and we like to buy things if people are cooperating with us. So for a person now, if a person eternally comes and sells you the insurance, calls and says, "Okay, madam, can I?" But for a change, if they say, "Okay, I understand that you must be busy. Can I get a moment," or something to that state? Or if she says, "Okay, I'm having some problem like this," the next day you call and ask, "Okay, madam, I don't want an appointment, but you said that you was not feeling well yesterday. How are you feeling today?"
Right.
You're speaking to the emotion.
Yes.
So we react differently when a person is speaking to our emotion.
Yes.
So then we might say, "Yeah, I'm feeling a little better." So you can take what we try to do is we try to sell a little fast, but we should take it slow and then maybe sell the insurance very gradually. You talk, "Okay, what was wrong with you? Okay, is there anything that I can help? I know a doctor that you probably might be helpful. If you need, please don't hesitate to give me a buzz." That kind of thing. Maybe in another week, we used to do that when we were medical reps.
So from experience, okay.
I think some of the, I think Sadan also would be able to relate.
Yes,
You are all in the
sure.
medical field. So those are things that we can pitch on. So you have to change the tactic depending on your client. Sometimes it might not work because everyone doesn't react in the same way. But it is very important that we understand the situation.
Right. Brilliant. Brilliant. Thank you very much. So it's more into a relationship building, and that's how you psychologically get your client ready and then approach them in that way.
Yes.
Brilliant. Okay. Next question from our very good friend, Nadi Kahadapitia. Now, she's saying that, "Hi guys, lovely to see two of my friends together. Well done. I am okay. So okay, this question is for you. Okay, she's asking. I'm shooting a question to Anali on how social media marketing can be effectively done to acquire more followers. Are there any specific steps to be taken to be omnipotent and omnipresent in the digital world?" So yeah, so she said, "Much love to both of you." So how to increase the follower? Yes, thank you for the love, Nadi. Thank you.
So Nadi, this is actually a lot more on the digital marketing side, right?
Yes.
I will not touch that side because it's marketing, but what I would say is we have influencers in digital marketing, in Instagram, on Facebook. We have influencers. We can use these influencers on a positive note, right?
Mhm.
And at the same time, sometimes what we forget when we are doing digital marketing is we end up having loads of followers. But what matters at the end of the day is whether it turns into a sale. So you might have 15,000 followers, but are you converting any of them into a sale? Because our purpose is to convert. At the end of the day, psychological marketing is based on converting people to buy your product or your service. Right? So we can actually boost, we can do a lot of things and get a lot more followers. But what we need to worry about is, even if we have followers, whether those followers are converted, whether those leads are used in a productive way. So even influencers, when we use, I've been going through some followers on Insta. We have certain restaurants that people promote. There are certain hotels that people promote. But if you look at the follower base, pardon me for if I say anything incorrect.
No,
right?
that's fine. So it has to be real. So it's a real talk with Shiva. So don't worry.
Yeah.
So go ahead.
So because people might not like me saying it, but this is reality. As you say, people like things which has skin shown of females, right? So you have a massive follower base, but actually you ask one of the followers, you have liked this particular place, where has she gone? They wouldn't know. Right? Because now the reason why the hotels or the restaurants are encouraging these followers is for them to get the marketing done through the followers. But actually what happens is they are in an attire that attracts a lot of people to them, not to the message that they're giving.
Right. Exactly.
Right. So that's why I say the follower base is good for us to understand how many people are interested. But is it the right kind of followers? Are we turning those followers into leads? And are they becoming a final outcome? Because at the end of the day, we want business.
Right.
I hope I have answered your question, Nadi.
So so basically, when you're targeting, you gotta be more precise and more focused. It's not about just creating follower, but followers who engage and and who understand, who you understand their psychology, you understand their psychology, and that's how you get them on board so that they follow you for the person who you are or whoever you're projecting, right?
Yes.
So that's what I understood. Am I correct?
Yes.
Sonali?
Yes.
Okay,
yes,
great.
Yes.
Okay, great. So next question from Muhammad Firoz. So he's asking, how can one bring in psychology to market a vehicle, like vehicle, cars? So yeah. So how can you bring in psychology on that?
Okay, very interesting question because I'm a vehicle lover.
Yes.
Vehicles are bought basically on emotion. Even though I might go for a cheaper vehicle, that doesn't mean that my expectations to buy a bigger vehicle isn't there. It's just that my budget is not there. So that means I always have something that I want to look forward to. So whether it's a vehicle or whether it's a product, there are only a few things that you have to do, right? You have to sell to their emotions. Now, for example, most of some of the successful campaigns have understood that if you give rationale to your marketing campaigns, you probably might get about 16% of people buying your product. But if you sell it to their emotion, that increased by 31%.
Right.
Right. So when you market a vehicle, what do we look at? We look at the way people look at us at the end of the day. How we feel when we sit in that particular vehicle. People like when people admire you driving it. Why would I go in an Audi? I can easily, buy about 6-7 smaller cars for a cheaper amount. But that it's the satisfaction. So that's what most of the companies do. They sell into their emotions. For example, you must have seen, sure, there was this particular ad, even though it's not one of my favorites. A particular CEO leaves one automobile company, goes home and drives away with a different brand of another luxury vehicle. He's a CEO of a particular luxury automobile company, has been there for a long period. Then he retires, and the slogan says, finally, I get to drive that particular brand that he has had at home, right? So, but what they do is, okay, you may have this, but are you getting the right thing? If so and so is not happy with the particular thing, how can you be? It puts a question mark in your mind. You think. So if the CEO doesn't like that, how come I do?
So how would, got it.
So I hope I have answered.
So it is, so I believe that creates a psychological, actually I think car is mostly psychological buy, emotional buy.
Yes.
That's what
you
correctly said. So the one of the way to increase the emotion would be, by doing psychological messaging, right? So, okay. So one of the questions from myself, I have seen laughter is used in many advertisements, right? Is it because it's impactful, or why not other emotion is used? Is it advertisers or marketers playing it safe, or why is that? Or why most of the time laughter is used as a positive emotion, or to market or psychological marketing?
Right. Honestly, I would say I won't agree on that. Sorry, Shua.
Yes, no problem. So that's why I asked.
Right. Yes, laughter is used. But now there are 6 universal emotions that we talk about, right? In psychology: happiness, anger, disgust, sadness, and fear, right? So we sell into all these emotions. Now, for example, here I might have to mention some of the brand names. Sorry.
Please go ahead.
Coke. Coke always sell to a happiness or laughter. Right? They always say happiness, fun.
Yes.
So that's an emotion that they use, right? Now, recently there was another advertisement that went on Nike. They were talking about the color.
Yes.
Right? So they arouse your anger, but nowhere do they mention their brand name. But if you actually look at that, in every slide, you see their logo. Right? Now, when I say Nike, what kind of apparel do you think of, Shu?
Right. So sorry, what are you talking about?
When you think of Nike, what kind of apparel do you think of?
Okay, I think of like excitement, winning attitude, right? Very positive scenario. That's the thing. It comes to my mind.
Yeah. And you blended with athletes, right?
Yeah. So that's how the winning mindset. I think that okay, people are winning.
Yes.
Yeah. Of course.
Yeah. So, but nowhere do they say that you should go for you should do athletics to buy Nike.
No, not really. No.
And,
even if you don't do athletic, you feel good. Like, oh, I'm buying Nike.
Yeah.
I feel athletic. Yeah, athletic. Yes, you're right. Yes.
Yeah. So they're selling into that. So that whole advertisement where they use the color, the synchronizing, everything. If you notice, There is a logo. They don't talk about the brand, but they talk about black and white. The skin color eternally keeps on changing. So, and even about women empowerment. There was another thing that went on saying, about women who says, no, I will. I'm crazy. Right? So they're making you say, okay, I'm crazy. I want to do things. I'm crazy. So that's anger. They're using the emotion anger in a very positive way. Then in some, especially when it comes to food products, they use this, are you fat?
Oh, yeah.
Exercises, or, are you ugly?
Right.
So they make you dislike yourself, disgust, and they make you buy. You're not fair. No one would like you. No one would marry you if you're not fair.
Oh, yeah. So there's a particular brand, they use it all the time, that thing. Yes.
Yeah. So what do I feel? I feel, oh, shoot, I am not fair enough.
Yeah.
I rub it. That's the kind of, there are lots of emotions that marketers use. Now, as I said, sadness, UNICEF, WWF, the Wildlife Association, World Wildlife Federation, they use a lot of sadness about animals being killed. Then fear, they say, okay, smoking kills. They have that advertisement on every
all those pictures, and they have pictures on the cigarette packets as well. Yeah.
Yes.
That
yes.
helps. Yeah.
So all this, I mean, even though when we say marketing, we don't realize, we think that it's always advertisements, but marketing is not advertising. Advertising is only, in marketing, we have 4 P's. One is promotion. So advertising is only part of promotion.
Part of it, yeah. Right.
So there's a lot more in marketing and a lot more psychology involved in it.
Right. Got it. Great. So while I was talking to you, yeah, that's so true. I mean, there is a mix of emotion that we use. So I was thinking of recently, I've seen a lingerie ad related to voting. So that came to my mind. So while I was having this conversation, I'm sure some of our audience must have seen that advertisement. So my next question is, we have quite a number of entrepreneurs who listen, I mean, who watch this program. So what I wanted to know is that for them, the entrepreneurs, right now, they're very motivated. They want to do a lot of, they want to reach out to more people, visibility, So they have now, at this point, now some of them might think that, okay, I'm not working with the advertising agency. I don't have enough advertising budgets, right? So how do you, I mean, with that psychology in mind, so if you can share some tips and examples whereby a practical example whereby the entrepreneurs can apply and get results out of it, that would be very useful.
Okay, as I said, Shu, marketing isn't advertising, right? So marketing has the product, the price, the place, the promotion. So there are 4 P's. Now we have 7, and then promotion is only one part of marketing. And in promotions also you have direct selling, you have advertising, you have public selling. There are lots of other things, sales promotions, things like that, right? So advertising is only one area. So what happens is we think advertising is everything in marketing, which is not. So what I would say is for entrepreneurs, there are ways that they can use the psychology to make their marketing campaigns better, but actually it's without spending a lot of money, probably without spending any at all, right? Now, according to Cialdini, there are 6 universal...
I like the part when you say without spending any money at all. Okay, well, I would like to know what is it.
No, honestly, when you come to a certain point, you do have to spend. But I'm looking at SMEs and startups who are struggling with the finances, right? Because the advertising actually do create a brand for you. So we can't say that it's not required, but I'm answering the question to this
Yes.
particular audience who might need a certain support, right?
Yes.
So there are universal shortcuts to influence. We have to influence people to buy a service or a product, right? One is reciprocity, right? What happens is, now for example, if I go to a restaurant, right, and if I go with my kids to a restaurant, and you know, when you go to a restaurant, you have a lot of children shouting and screaming, and you don't want to be embarrassed with your kids shouting, right? So if the waitress or the person who's serving comes and gives you a coloring box and a paper, immediately you're relieved, right? So what happens then? You know, then if you give one, so then there's another child who's fighting over it, and the person serving says, "No, madam, don't worry, I'll get you another one and bring another one along," right? Your satisfaction to the service improves. So even when you want to go out again to eat out, you will want to go to that place because you know that your children will be looked after.
Right.
Right?
Yes.
So that's the service level. If you give a good service to your customers, they will come back. Right? So that's why in most of the companies, when they start up, they give samples for you to try out. When you walk into supermarkets, you have ladies coming with samples for you to say, "No, ma'am, you don't need to buy, just taste it." When you taste it, you feel bad. You want to try it out. So you buy. And if the product is good, they will keep on coming, because what you want is you need to influence them to buy your product. As a startup, what you want is for them to buy, at least give you a chance. Right? Then you give trial periods. Okay, 3 months trial period. Now, for these, especially gyms and things, exercise routines and things like that, you give trial periods. Once you get used to it, you automatically keep on going. You keep on renewing. So you keep on going back to their service. And sometimes, now, even though we don't talk about consultants and marketing and all that, some of them say, "I'll give you free service. You know, I'll give you free advice." So once a person gives you free advice, even a person who's doing grooming or something else, you feel like going back, right? And then the other one is scarcity. So if you think that the product is running out, the Black Fridays, then the stocks until the stocks last. So those are also some other things that you influence people to come and buy, even limited editions, especially where vehicles and things like that, luxury items are concerned, you say limited editions, right? So people want to immediately go and buy before you run out. Then authority. That's another thing. If a person credible talks to you about a product, a client, it can be a client of yours, it can be someone on a social media, you just ask someone, one of your clients who are satisfied, take a testimonial and put it out.
Right.
So you can use little things like that of people that you have been working with. So even a halal certificate, a Muslim person would want to buy something that has a halal certificate or a halal emblem on a product, because that gives credibility, authority, knowledge, you know, that kind of thing. Now, some of the things, what happens is sometimes when we use this, even in advertising, I have seen certain toothpaste products impersonating a dentist by having a model. You clearly know that that's a model, right? So even if you dress up like a dentist, a person wouldn't have credibility. Right? So when we are startups, we need to make sure that we get people who people can rely on. It might not be probably a CEO or someone, but at least a person, a real person who can say, I tried it, I tested it, that kind of thing, then there is some sort of credibility. Even a hotel, that's why we go through reviews. TripAdvisor have understood that 77% of the people who book read reviews. So if you have a bad review, that means people will not check into your place.
Right.
So make sure your reviews that goes on your FB pages, on your websites are good reviews or decent ones. Make your service good. So you have to have consistencies. What happens with the startups is they start very well and then they lose their consistency halfway through, right? Due to different difficulties. It can be budgetary, it can be other issues. But don't lose your consistency, because as marketers, we say, the product has to be good for people to come back.
Right. Yeah.
Right. So these are some things that you can, yes. And another simple thing is when you answer the call, what happens? You answer the call and the reception is actually, we say 70% of the sales is done by the receptionist or the person who answers the call center agent. The moment you say, okay, you ask to buy a real estate or something, you want to buy a house, you call me and I'm a real estate agent and I say, I'm sorry, we are busy, our agents are busy. What do you think? Do you even want to call them back again? Immediately your brain says, don't. You have a block. You block it out. But the moment you say, madam, there is I will put you to the best salesperson. He is very thorough in the product, in the market. He will get you the best options in town. Immediately you feel whether he's good or not. Immediately you feel, okay, at least, they will give me something good. At least they will talk sense into me. So we shouldn't make selling our focus. Even though our focus is selling, we shouldn't make it sound as if we are trying to sell and close it off. So we need to make sure that their call, it's important to us. We used to say customer is king. Now we say employees are king. In my perception, both are kings. We need both.
Great.
Right.
Great.
So it's very important that the front person in contact is trained properly so that you don't lose the customers who come into your place.
Right.
So I hope that is
great. Actually, I mean, what you share, I mean, which is very practical and day in, day out. So there has to be actually win. What I say is it has to be win-win-win. The customer must win, the organization must win, the owner must win. So then you have a complete spectrum of people together, which becomes a winning experience, right? And each and every step, marketing is very important. As you mentioned, the simple answering the call itself, I mean, that can make a big difference. So that is of course, you require to train, and then other areas what you mentioned, which is very practical and applicable. Thank you very much for that. Okay, I was going to ask this question, but okay, Mohammed Firoz, he has asked the question. So he's saying that if promotion is a vital tool to bring in sales of a company, why do finance managers curtail the marketing budget the most beginning of the financial year? Why do they do that? It's always been a, been a tug of war that, okay, I want to spend this, sorry, we don't have money. So why is that?
Right. Okay. We always say marketers and finance people doesn't see eye to eye.
Yes.
Right? Marketers want to spend. Finance people want to save. Right? That will not change, because at the end of the day, you need the money also to run the company. But you need to market also, because if you don't market, then your products will not go to the clients. So it's a very vital thing where you have to strike a balance. in both, right? But what I would say is, in the current scenario, I will take the COVID situation right now.
Yes. Yes.
Right. So most of the marketing budgets would have been cut, and we are wondering what is cut. So when you say marketing budget, what comes into your mind immediately? Sure. When we say marketing budget is cut, what would come into your mind?
I mean, I would think that, okay, I would not be able to reach out, less visibility. That's what I would say. I would not be able to engage with the audience I want to do it. Yeah. Or reach out.
So that's what happens is, we immediately, when we say marketing budget is cut, the first thing that comes into our head is advertising, right? So
yeah. So we will not be able to reach out. Yeah.
Yes. So advertising, as I said, marketing, we need to keep on saying marketing is not advertising alone. So your advertising budgets might be cut. You might have to use it in a very productive way, but the budget that you have, if you have the right data, because every company has the data. Use the data to understand who your clients are, where you need to pitch, because sometimes you may pitch in the wrong place. So your advertising budget, the limited advertising budget that you have, you might not be spending it in the right place. You might go and keep on boosting your FB page, right? But at the end of the day, if your targeting is not right, if you're trying to sell a chewing gum and your target audience is from 18 to 60, will that be productive?
No.
Right?
Definitely not.
So that's why you need to look at your target audience. You need to understand where your target audience is. So when we have tight situations like this, we need to make sure that the data we have is used to pitch into the emotions of our buyers. So we need to change our advertising, the position, the product has a certain position. We know what our target audience is. When we look at data, we know where we have managed to hit their emotions. So place on that emotion, you pitch it. So that's what, now for example, Nike did. We had that black and white issue going. So they pitched on the current situation. There is another condom ad, which said, when you go out, you wear a mask. When you go in, you use that particular brand.
Right.
Right?
Yes.
So they're using the current scenario because, see, they're targeting it in the right way. So your creativeness, you need to use your creativeness, get your advertising agency or someone to use that current scenario to the target audience that you're aiming at. Now, even the lingerie ad, they use the voting.
Yeah.
Right? It's creativity. They use the creativity for the target audience, and they said it's only available today. So just imagine how many people would have actually gone there today.
Right. True. Yeah. So it's about, I got a lot of clarity.
When you're using. So what I would say is, in summary, just when you have restricted budgets, that is the time that it's not just on the only time, but you use your data, identify, don't go on instincts. Make sure that you use what you have, because that's your biggest weapon.
Brilliant. I thank you very much, because that gave me a lot of clarity, advertising and marketing. So even though the advertising budget is cut, but you can be creative within that based on the data what you have in hand. And that is very practical way of applying as well. Thank you so much for that reply. Okay, Hasini is asking a question. When an organization is driving a social cause, is it a good thing to attach emotion in marketing? will consumers degrade or think it's a cheap or low quality product or service?
It's like this. That's one reason why we have CSR in our companies. We use CSR for marketing. Now, that's why CSR also falls under the marketing budgets. Because whatever said and done, we use social causes to boost the company image. Because if you boost the company image, obviously your product is also aligned with your company. So as long as you have a good product, the product is very important, right? So just because you drive a social responsibility campaign, that doesn't mean that your product will go down. They won't look down upon it. That's why I said the Wildlife Federation, WWF, World Wildlife Federation, they go on CSR. Then there are certain a milk powder that says for every milk powder you buy, we contribute 100 rupees to save a cow, right? So that so social responsibility can be used for marketing in the right way, because it touches the emotions. People build brand loyalty towards that. Even a lot of SMSs come to us. You give us a missed call, we will contribute. They're collecting data on what your emotions are.
Right.
So I hope, Hasini, that I've answered yours.
Yes. So yeah, and I believe the the supermarkets, we use these different cards. They will ask you, do you have the certain cards or not? And then they can collect a lot of data, and through that they will be able to do a lot of wonders. Position that stuff wherever they want to. Definitely, it's possible. Okay. My next question is: are marketeers made or born?
Good question. Some people might agree, some people might not agree. What I would say is, in my personal view, okay, I personally think all of us are marketeers. I will take two simple examples, okay, life examples. When we go for an interview, what do? We market ourselves. That's why we have our CV done properly. That's our advertisement. We send our CV. So if it is attractive, a person will call us for the interview. When we go, we do the selling. Right? So if we don't market ourselves right, we wouldn't end up getting a job. Right? Even if you're doing your own thing, if you're not marketing your product right, you wouldn't get the investors. More than anything, see, sure, you and I are married, right? Yes. We marketed ourselves pretty well. That's why we had a person actually who was interested.
Did some personal selling also.
Yeah. We market. We dress nice. We smile nice.
Yes.
Exactly. So we present ourselves. That's the first point. And once we meet that person, we sell. True. So we are all marketers. Yes. But the difference is some people are very passionate about it. And because of that passion that they have, they actually go that extra mile and become experts in marketing. Because they're passionate, they like what they do. Some of us might not like what even though we are marketers, we might not like what we do. So what differs the experts and us is because they're passionate, they like what they do, and they enjoy using their brains to use creativity, to go meet people, that. So basically, if I put it in a phrase, marketing is like running. All of us can run. But only a few of us will turn out to be a Usain Bolt or a Damayanti Dasha.
Right. Okay, got it. So then again, it comes back to the psychological part of it, right? because they are a winner because because whatever we do in life is 20% skill and 80% psychology. So they work on that, and that's why they have excelled in that way. Okay, so so you're born as a marketer, but it's up to you which level you want to take it to, right? Okay, great. Okay, there was one question from Feroz, Mohammed Feroz. So he's asking a lot of questions. Okay, so which is good. Okay, he said that what is gig marketing? Gig marketing is there a term called gig marketing?
Honestly speaking, I'm not too familiar with that, so I wouldn't be able to tell you much on that.
I heard about gig economy.
Yeah,
I heard about gig economy. Probably maybe one of the audience can enlighten us what is gig marketing is. I'm also not so familiar. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So so
I'm sorry about that, Feroz.
No problem. So with that, I believe so we have come to an end. So please share with us about CIM, what CIM is doing at the moment in Sri Lanka. What are the activities Sri Lanka and Maldives? How can you be a better marketeer by being a part of Chartered Institute of Marketing? Would like to hear from you.
Right. CIM, we are very passionate about marketing. So yes, what we want, right? What we want is for people to enjoy what they do. It's not about CIM is not a qualification that gives you certificates, right? That's the academic part of it. We are a professional qualification. So professional qualifications, we eternally say you need to practice what you learn, because unless you practice what you learn, there's no point in learning. You might end up getting a certificate, or you might end up getting an assignment, try to write your assignment and pass. But what is it at the end of the day? Because when you go out into the market, you need to perform, you need to understand, you need to do what is right and what is going to be the best for your product and your company. So for you to do that, you need to practice what you learn, and you need to use that knowledge actively. So in CIM, we encourage everyone, even our students, to practice, get involved with the marketing subjects, use what you know, apply what you know. So this qualification is not about getting a certificate. It's all about grooming a person to be a marketer. So basically, we groom marketers. We don't sell out certificates.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you so much. Hey, Onali, this Bullhorn Customs, our friend Sharif, sorry, I missed out that question. He asked a question. He said that, which is the best way of market a lower quality product, which might be a way of cheaper and within the consumer's grasp. A product which will still provide a great emotional experience against a branded expensive product, which might give the same experience, but more durability and which lasts longer. So how to market that kind of product?
Sure. Can you repeat the first bit?
So what he's saying, okay, what he's saying is that, yeah, it's a too long question. Okay, so which is the best way to market a lower quality product? So right, it's a lower quality product, but it gives the same experience, emotional experience as an expensive product. So how to market that? What would be the best way to reach out to the market?
Yeah. Right. First, I would say from a psychology point of view, don't consider your product low quality, because the moment you think low, you are low. You can't give that superior quality. If you think it is, if you believe that it gives the same emotional satisfaction, it gives the same product quality at a reasonable price. I think I suppose that's what he means, right? If you're giving it at a reasonable price, then don't even mention the word low quality, because you're not low. The moment you believe you're low, people also believe that you're low, because your communication will relate that you're low indirectly. Because see, psychologically what happens is what we say is only 20%. What we show is 80%. So we show a lot of emotion in what we do. So if we don't believe in our product, we can't sell it proper. So first of all, if you believe that your product is right, you pitch it there. And then you target to that audience saying, I am a good product at a reasonable price, or at an economical level that you can afford. Right? So that's the best way of putting it across. If it is giving the same satisfaction, if it is giving all the other aspects other than the price, if it is only lower in price, make sure you don't say that you are cheap. Make sure that you don't say you are low. You are a good product at an economical price that you can afford. So go with that pitch. Always think, pitch in that sense. Don't compare yourself to anything, and don't think that you are low. Because the moment we, as I said, the moment I think I'm cheap, I act cheap.
Got it. Okay. So you have to package it in such a way.
Yes.
Package it in such a way, and then with a psychological aspect of it. Definitely, if it is not cheap, why would you position yourself in that way? So that would be the starting point.
Yes.
Brilliant. Thank you, Onali, for the reply. And yes, so that brings us to the end of this conversation. I enjoyed it, and learned quite a few things as well. And you know, when you say that your marketing budget is cut, it's actually the advertisement budget is cut, not the marketing budget. But there are other ways of market the product as well. I thought that was the biggest takeaway from this conversation. Thank you so much. I would like to really thank you for being here. I know today is an election day. It was a very relaxed day, but still we are here. We had quite a number of audience with us. Thank you so much for being here and sharing your knowledge. And definitely what you have shared, it will be in our page, and we'll share it with others as well. But there is so many takeaways from this conversation. Really appreciate Onali for being here. And any last message or thoughts you want to give, and then we'll close.
Yeah, thank you, Sure. Thank you for having me here. I didn't want to bring in any theory or anything. I wanted to make it so practical so that everyone can understand, because marketing is a known subject, so there's nothing different that you and I may not know. These are all things that we already know. So it's just that when you say marketing, don't get confused. Marketing is not advertising. Make sure that marketing always starts with people and how you look at yourself, how your company thinks of yourself. Even Tony Robbins says, right? You think, dream big, you will reach there. So it's all psychology.
Yes.
You believe,
right,
you will reach there. Believe in your product, believe in your company, you will go there, because your emotions are expressed in your campaigns. So thank you, Sure, once again.
Right.
And I thank all those who came in. I hope they also learned something new, or at least something that they can practically use in their day-to-day lives in marketing. Sure. So thank you once again. I hope everyone has a super election night.
Yes, a very special night. Yes, thank you so much. Thank you, audience, for being with us in an election evening. Really appreciate, and that's why we keep it very real. And I really thank you, Onali, for not using jargons, but simplify it and deliver it. That's one thing I really love about you, and I wanted the world to know about it, our audience to know about it as well. Thank you so much for that. So with that, ladies and gentlemen, so today was about marketing, right? Next week, it's about selling. So we're gonna have a wonderful gentleman next week, next Wednesday, 7:30. You don't want to miss that session. And he is master at sales. So we will be having him next Wednesday, 7:30. All of you are invited to join that event. And with that, I wish all of you happy election and see you next week. Thank you.